Okay, so the Mishnah on the top of Kuf Lamed Daled Amid Beis tells us Marchitz and Esakatan Bein Milifnei Hamila Bein Liachar Hamila. The time of the Mishnah, they would bathe the child before and after the bris milah. So even though bathing in hot water is a problem on Shabbos, but if the bris milah was on Shabbos, and certainly we would do the bathing both pre and post bris milah could be done on Shabbos. Umizalfen alav biyad avalo b'kli, and the water can be sprinkled on by hand, but not by pouring from any type of kli. So it has to be done in an unusual fashion with the shinui. Okay, that's the Tanakama. Elazar ben Azariah omer marchitz nesakatan b'yom hashlishi shechal yos b'Shabbos. Elazar ben Azariah is even more lenient, and he says you can even bathe the child on the third day after the bris milah. Let's say the bris milah was a Thursday, and now you want to bathe the child 2 days later on Shabbos, so that is also mutter. Shenemar vayibeyom hashlishi b'yosam koavim. And his source is from the story of Shechem, Shimon and Levi, that they attacked the city on the third day after the bris milah, b'yosam koavim, when they were in the most discomfort. So that tells you that the third day after the bris milah also has medical considerations. Okay. The last day of the Mishnah, Safek v'androgonus ein mechalin alav es haShabbos. You have a situation where you're performing a bris milah, but you're not absolutely sure that it must be done. So a Safek situation, a Safek means we have a doubt. In this case, a doubt is whether or not the child is viable, whether the child is going to survive, whether it was born healthy. The androgynous is a child where actually has ambiguous characteristics, has male and female characteristics. We're not sure it is chayiv bris milah in the first place. In that situation, ein mechalin alav es haShabbos. In that situation, you would not perform the bris milah on Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda matter b'androgynous. Rabbi Yehuda allows the second case of an androgynous to perform the bris milah in that situation, even if it's on Shabbos. Okay, there's the Mishnah. Now the Gemara presents difficulty in the first line of the Mishnah. V'yamris reisha marchitzin. Wait a minute. So the Mishnah said you bathe the child, and then it said you sprinkle water by hand. So bathe sounds like as normal, and then the Mishnah says mizalfen alav biyad. So how do we reconcile those two things in the Mishnah? So Gemara gives two answers. Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Bar Avuha, the Amar Tarvayu, Keitza Tani Marchitzin Esakatan, Bein Lifnei Mila, Bein Liachar Mila, Keitza Mezalfen Olav Biyad Avalo B'Kli. Okay, so the first answer from Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Bar Avuha is a stricter interpretation. They say when the Mishnah began Marchitzin Esakatan, the next line explains what that meant. When it said you can bathe the child, it doesn't mean as normally. You still need to use a shinui by sprinkling the water by hand. And so according to them, the second line of the Mishnah explains the first. Amar Rava, Marchitzin Katani. Rava doesn't like that explanation. Rava says, but it says Marchitzin, it says you can bathe properly. That's what it says in the Mishnah Katani. The Mishnah teaches it that way. That is his reason for objecting to the first stricter interpretation. Elam Rava Hachi Katani. Rather, along comes Rava and says Hachi Katani. This is what the Mishnah really means to say. Marchitzin esakatan bein milifnei mila bein liachar mila bayom harishon kedarko ubayom hashlishi shechal yos b'Shabbos mizalfen olav biyad avalo b'kli. So what Rav is explaining is the first line, even though this doesn't say this in the Mishnah, but in order to reconcile the contradiction, Rav is explaining the first line, Marchitzin esakatan, is the day of the bris milah. The day of, then there's no restrictions. You bathe the child as you would normally. But if you're washing the child 2 days later, then you have to use a shinui. Mizalfen olav biyad avalo b'kli. Right? There's no more pikuach nefesh issues. There is discomfort for the child that would allow you to perform something normally prohibited on Shabbos if you do it b'shinui. The day of the bris milah, the shinui is not necessary. 2 days later, the shinui is necessary. That's how Rava resolves the contradiction. But that's a more lenient interpretation, because he's saying on the day of the bris milah there's no restrictions at all, whereas the first answer, Rabbi Bar Avuha, said there were restrictions even on the day of. Okay. Now, finishing up the Mishnah in Rav's version, was ben Azariah Omer Marchitzin Esakatan b'yom hashlish shechal yos b'Shabbos shenemar vayibeyom hashlish b'yosam koavim. Okay, that's just the last line of the Mishnah. Was ben Azariah, the next line of the Mishnah. Was ben Azariah telling us that even on the third day, he's even more lenient than Rav's version of the Tanakama. But Elazar ben Azariah says on the third day, where perhaps the Tanakama would only allow a shinui, Elazar ben Azariah would say you don't even need a shinui. It's a real medical situation, and he recites that pasuk by Shechem that on the third day they were in a special discomfort. Okay, so you have a machlokas, how to understand the Mishnah. Tanya Kavasi the Rava. So the Gemara immediately brings us a brisa that supports Rava's interpretation. What does the brisa say? Marchitz and akatan bei milifnei hamila bei liachar hamila biyom rishon kidarko biyom ashlish shachalis b'shabbos mezal fanolav biyad. Was marchitz and akatan biyom ashlish shachalis b'shabbos. Yapishen rai l'davar zeich l'davar shenemar biyom ashlish biyosem koavim. B'shein mezal fan lo b'kos lo b'kar lo b'kli el biyad. Okay, that's the end of the brisa. And the brisa basically says the same din as our Mishnah, but according to Rava's version, it said that on the day of the bris milah, biyom harishon kidarko, on the day of the bris milah, you can wash the baby properly. And only on the third day, then it's a machlokas. The Tanakama says you have to do a shinui, mizalfan al biyad. And Elazar ben Azariah says, no, even on the third day, you can wash normally. And citing that pasuk from Shechem. Okay, and then, that brisa was clearly like Rava's more lenient version. Now the last line of the brisa said, "Kishain mizalfan and mizalfan lo b'kos lo b'kara." When you do the sprinkling of the water, don't use don't pour it from a cup or a bowl or something. El b'yad, you should bring the water by hand. So that last line of the brisa doesn't make sense where it is. It's written at the end of Elazar ben Azariah. So the Gemara just explains that by saying Asar l'Tanakama. That last line goes back to the Tanakama, who says that on the third day you would have to use a shinui. So the end of the brisa explains what he meant by a shinui, to use it by hand. Okay, another detail in the brisa the Gemara wants to explore. My afal pishein ra'il davar zeichel davar. So the brisa quoted the same pasuk that the Mishnah quoted. Elazar ben Azariah, who's lenient, who says on day 3 you don't need a shinui, he brings in the pasuk from Shechem, but the brisa said af al pi shein ra'il ledavar zeicher ledavar. The brisa said that pasuk is not a proof, but it's a zeicher, meaning it doesn't explicitly make Elazar ben Azariah's point, but it is a hint, it is a clue, it is a suggestion that he's onto something. So what the Gemara wants to know is, why is it just a zeicher? Why isn't that a good proof? The Torah seems to be telling us that day 3 of a bris milah is particularly uncomfortable, particularly as medical issues. So why isn't that a solid proof for Elazar ben Azariah? So the Gemara answers, Mishum de gadol o salik bisra, hayakata and salik be bisra. So the Gemara says that the difference is that the story of Shechem, they were adults. Adults don't heal as easily or as quickly. So the fact that for an adult the third day is dangerous does not necessarily prove that it's true for a baby, because a baby cut in salik beibisra, that the flesh heals itself quicker. Salik beibisra haya, excuse me. Okay, fine. So there's our machlokas. Again, going back to the Gemara's original point. Machlokas, how to interpret our Mishnah. Is the Tanakam of our Mishnah strict and require a shinui on the first day, or like Rava says, do you not require a shinui on the day of the bris milah? Okay, so Gemara tells a story. Hahodas l'kami de Rava. So somebody came to Rava himself. Rava, the second opinion, the more lenient opinion. Orule kishmate, and he indeed instructed him. Orule, from the word Torah or Hora. He instructed him kishmate. He instructed him according to his own lenient teaching that there's no requirement for a shinui when you bathe the baby on the day of the bris milah. Okay. Ichlish Rava, but then Rava felt bad. He felt sick physically. He felt weak. That maybe he was too lenient. Amar ana bahade targimna desave lamali, and he lamented, ana mi bahade targimna desave, lamali. What am I mixing myself up with these elders, these real scholars, and here I am disagreeing with them, with Rav Yehuda and Rabbi Baravua, and here I am ignoring them. Why am I doing that? So he felt bad. Amar le Rabbanan la Rava, but then Rava's friends, they tried to make him feel better. I've had Tanya Kivase Demar. He said, wait a minute, you had this machlokes, the brisa supported you. You won. Why do you feel bad? So Amr Masnisin Kavasayu Deka. He said, yeah, I got the brisa, but the Mishnah reads better according to the stricter interpretation. Deka means it reads more precisely if you assume like the stricter opinion. Mimai, what is he talking about? Mimai means the Amr Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah marchitzen es hakata b'yamashlishi shchalias b'Shabbos. He says if you look very carefully, when Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah gives his argument, and he's even more lenient, and he says you can wash the child on the third day. If the third day would be Shabbos, so now hang on. So there's two possibilities at this point. So what does the Tanakama say about bathing the child? So in the Mishnah we talked about bathing the child on the day of the bris milah. And the Tanakama said you can bathe the child. But there's two interpretations. Can you bathe them normally, or do you need a shinu? So, okay, that's on the day of the bris milah. Now, what would the Tanakama say about the third day of the 2 days later? So, presumably, they would be stricter 2 days later than they would be on the day of the bris milah. So, if you go like the first interpretation, the strict interpretation that you need a shinui on the day of the bris milah, then you wouldn't be allowed to wash at all on the third day. If you take the more lenient opinion that you don't need a shinu on the first day, but then you would need a shinu on the third day. Okay. And along comes Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah and says you can wash normally on the third day. Okay, so what is he responding to? Is he responding to a Tanakama that says you can't wash at all on the third day? Or is he responding to a Tanakama that says, meaning the stricter interpretation? Or is he responding to a Tanakama that says you can wash with a shinui on the third day? Either way, he's disagreeing, but what is he disagreeing with? So according to Rava, he's disagreeing with a Tanakama that says you can wash with a shinui on the third day. So, if you're going to tell me it's the Tanakama that requires a shinui on the first day, we're not allowed anything on the third day, so then I understand. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, no, you can bathe the child on the third day. You think you can't bathe him at all? And I say you can. That reads very well. Ella, however, said Rava, he said, if I was right, and the Tanakama actually allows bathing normally on the first day, and then mizalfin b'yamashlishi, and then would allow washing with a shinu on the third day, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, omer marchitzin, af marchitzin miboile. So I don't understand. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah shouldn't have said you can bathe, because everyone agrees you can bathe. The question is, do you bathe with a shinui or regularly? So Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah should have said af marchitzin. You could even do it regularly. So based on that, Rava thought maybe his interpretation, his more lenient interpretation of the Mishnah, didn't read as smoothly. However, happy ending. Ki asa Rav Dimi Amar Rabbi Elazar. Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael, and he quoted Rabbi Elazar, saying Allah Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, that we actually follow the Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, the most lenient opinion. It says you can even wash normally, even on the third day, no shinu required, even on the third day. So that is the most lenient opinion, and then it's not even subject to this machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Baravua against Rava. Okay, we'll stop there.